Welcome to all. Today we will discuss about the pharmacotherapy in obesity. I will cover this topic under following headings: brief introduction, followed by the various FDA-approved anti-obesity drugs, their mechanism of action, side effects, their clinical efficacy supported by the literature, and the newer anti-obesity drugs which are in the pipeline and may come in the near future. Now, pharmacotherapy is the second-line treatment for obesity following lifestyle modification, and the indications remains the BMI of more than 27 with obesity-related comorbidities like diabetes and hypertension, and BMI of more than 30 with lifestyle therapies. And pharmacotherapy should always be used in conjunction with lifestyle modification to increase the efficacy and outcomes. Orlistat was the first FDA-approved medication approved in 1999. It comes with a trade name of Xenical, and it is the longest studied and most commonly used anti-obesity drugs. The recommended dosage is 120 mg TDS, and the mechanism of action is it inhibits the gastric and pancreatic lipase and thus causes fat malabsorption, leading to decreased caloric absorption and hence leads to reduced weight loss. The cost is around 60 tablet of each tablet, so the daily cost is around 180 rupees per day. And the common side effects are steatorrhea because of fat malabsorption, diarrhea, fecal incontinence, and increased incidence of oxalate stones. Usually the oxalate binds with calcium and from the absorption of oxalate is reduced. But in case of fat malabsorption, the calcium binds with the fatty acids and the oxalate become more absorbed and leads to hyperoxaluria and oxalate stones. And it may also cause deficiency of fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, K and beta carotene. The clinical efficacy of Orlistat was assessed in the Zendos trial, which was a randomized trial including more than 3,000 patients, and it was observed that Orlistat leads to improvement of BP, insulin sensitivity, and lipid profiles, owing to its primary action of decreasing the fat absorption. The mean weight loss, it was a 4-year follow-up trial. The mean weight loss after 4 years was significantly greater in the Orlistat group, which was around 5.8 kg compared to 3 kg in the placebo group, and the difference was statistically significant. And the incidence of diabetes, which was initially 21% in both the groups, was decreased in 9% in the placebo group and 6.2% with the Orlistat, and the total risk reduction was higher in the Orlistat group in the range of 37%. But the limitation of the study was that more than 90% patients observed some of the GI side effects, as I already mentioned, the steatorrhea and fat malabsorption, etc. And the 8% of patients withdrew due to of the adverse events. This was and the conclusion of the study was that Orlistat plus lifestyle modification results in greater reduction in the incidence of type 2 diabetes and increased weight loss over 4 years. And the safety concern includes it should be avoided in pregnancy and it may lead to fetal malfunction. And there are animal reports of increasing the colorectal cancer due to the presence of increased fat. The second drug was the lorcaserin, which was FDA approved in 2012, and it comes with a trade name of Belviq. And the mechanism of action includes it is basically a 5-hydroxytryptamine type C receptor inhibitor, agonist, and the dose is 10 mg BD. The cost is around 20 tablets per day, so it is around 40 rupees per day. And the mechanism of action includes it increases satiety by acting on the propionamineralocorticoid receptors in the hypothalamus and acting on the reward center in the hypothalamus and leading to increased satiety. Fenfluramine was initially used as an anti-obesity drug, but it was withdrawn in 2009. It is basically a 5-hydroxytryptamine type 2B receptor agonist, but it leads to adverse cardiovascular effect, and it was seen in the studies that it leads to valvulopathy caused by increased mitotic activities and wall overgrowth. The basic side effect of lorcaserin include nausea, headache, fatigue, dry mouth, constipations, and back pain. It should also be used with cautious in pregnancy, and patient in reproductive age group should be prescribed contraceptive measures and should not be used concomitantly with SSRIs and selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors so as to avoid hyperserotonergic effects. The clinical efficacy of lorcaserin was assessed in the Bloom trial, that is a behavioral modification, and lorcaserin for obesity and overweight management include more than 3,000 patients with a mean BMI of 36, and 10 mg of BD was given in one arm, and another arm was placebo arm, and the treatment was given for 1 year. And at 1 year, there was a loss to follow of around 45% in patient in the lorcaserin group and 55% in the placebo group. And it was observed that 47% patient in the lorcaserin group and 20% patient in the placebo group lost 5% of or more of their body weight at 1 year of follow-up, and the difference was extremely significant. The average weight loss in the lorcaserin group was around 6 kgs, as compared to the placebo it was 2.2 kg. And there was no evidence of cardiac valvulopathy, which was seen with fenfluramine. And this study concluded that lorcaserin was associated with significant weight loss, improvement, and maintenance of weight loss as compared to placebo group. This was another trial, the Blossom trial. The aim of this study was to compare the lorcaserin with the placebo group, and the total number of patients was more than 4,000, and the age group was 18 to 65 years. And the intervention was in the 2:1:2 ratio. In first arm, it was a 3-arm study. In first arm, lorcaserin was given 10 mg BD. In second arm, 10 mg OD, and another arm was placebo arm. And it was observed that patient in the lorcaserin with 10 mg BD lost at least 5% of baseline body weight in 47% and 40% respectively, as compared to the placebo, and the difference was statistically significant. The weight loss of more than 10% was achieved in 22% and 17% of patients receiving 10 mg BD and OD respectively, whereas in the placebo group the weight loss was around of 10% was in 10% of population, and this was also statistically significant. The follow was yearly follow was done by echocardiography to assess for cardiac valvulopathy, and the difference was not similar in all of the groups. And this study concluded that lorcaserin in conjunction with lifestyle modification is associated with dose-dependent weight loss that is significantly greater than with compared to placebo. This is a recent paper published in Journal of Health in March 2020, where there was an important announcement by the FDA that the lorcaserin should be withdrawn from the market as it carries the increased risk of various types of cancer, and the risk benefits overweighs the benefits, so it should be withdrawn. Next is the first combination therapy, the phentermine and topiramate. The combination therapy seems to be more potent because the two drugs exploit two different mechanism of action and leads to better weight loss, but simultaneously they also leads to greater side effect. It comes with a trade name of Qsymia, and it was FDA approved in 2012. Phentermine is basically a sympathomimetic drug, and topiramate is an anti-epileptic drug used in the prophylaxis and treatment of migraine and epilepsy. It is usually studied at low dose, and the dose is gradually increased to the maximum dose of 15 mg of phentermine and 92 mg of topiramate. And the cost is very high. The daily cost ranges around 500 Indian rupees per day. The mechanism of action is the phentermine reduces the appetite by central sympathetic action, acting in the hypothalamus and stimulating the reward center. And topiramate, the exact mechanism is not known, but it is hypothesized that it increases the energy expenditure. And the side effects include insomnia, as phentermine is a sympathomimetic. Other side effects include paresthesia, dry mouth, constipation, and it increases the risk of oral cleft defects in fetus, so it should not be used in pregnant and reproductive age group females. And contraceptive planning is must as all other drugs. The clinical efficacy of this combination was assessed in the EQUIP trial, which was a double-blind trial with 500 patients in the placebo arm, and phentermine topiramate combination at low dose. There was 240 patients with 3.7 and 23 mg, and with standard therapeutic dose there was 500 patients. The inclusion criteria was BMI of more than 35, and the treatment was given for 1 year, and at 1 year observation was made, and it was seen that in the low dose and high dose group the weight loss was 1.6 and 5.1%, 1.6% there was weight loss in placebo, and 5.1 in low dose, and 10.9% in the high dose group, that is the 15 and 92 mg, and this difference was strictly significant. The dropout rate was very high as compared to other studies, and it was 47% in placebo arm, 39% in low dose, and 33% in high dose group. And this study concluded that phentermine and topiramate combination leads to dose dependent reduction in weight and improvement in metabolic variables like waist circumference, blood sugar, etc., without any serious adverse events. This was another study published in Lancet 2011, the Conquer trial, for the efficacy of phentermine and topiramate combination with more than 2,000 patients. The BMI range from 27 to 45, and it was a multi-center RCT with 3 arms. In one arm, the topiramate and phentermine was given in the low dose, and other in the high dose, and other was the placebo arm. And it was observed that change in body weight was 1.4 kg in the placebo, 8.1 kg in the low dose group, and 10.2 kg in the high dose group, and that all the difference was really significant. And this study also concluded that combination of phentermine topiramate with lifestyle intervention is valuable treatment for obesity. Next combination therapy was the naltrexone and bupropion, come with the trade name of Contrave in the market. It was FDA approved in 2014, and the cost is 500 rupees per day. It is also started at a low dose of 8 mg and 90 mg, and then doses gradually increased to the maximum dose of 32 and 36 mg daily. Its mechanism, naltrexone is basically a opioid receptor antagonist, and bupropion is a norepinephrine, is a type of antipsychotic drug which acts by reducing the reuptake of dopamine, norepinephrine, etc. And they act by reducing the appetite, by reducing the dopamine and norepinephrine reuptake. The common side effects include headache and other GI complications, side effects like nausea, vomiting, dry mouth, constipation. And this drug also leads to increase in heart rate and BP, so should be used cautiously in patients with significant cardiovascular disease. The efficacy of naltrexone and bupropion combination was assessed in the CORE2 trial. The aim of this trial was to study the effects of naltrexone bupropion combination on weight and weight risk factors in obese patients. It included around 1,500 patients. It was a 2:1 trial with 1,000 patients in the naltrexone bupropion group and around 500 patients in the control placebo group, and the drug was given for one year, and then results were assessed, and it was seen that at 1 year the weight loss in the naltrexone and bupropion group was 6.4% as compared to 1.2%, and the difference was extremely significant. And this study concluded that naltrexone bupropion combination is a newer pharmacological approach which can be used in the treatment of obesity. Now the most commonly used and the newer one is the liraglutide, which comes with the trade name of Saxenda or Victoza. It is basically an injectable glucagon-like peptide approved by FDA in 2014. Liraglutide was initially used at lower dose of 1.6 mg for management of diabetes, but at higher dose it was seen to have action in weight loss. And for weight loss, the recommended dose is 3 mg subcutaneous daily, and the dose is gradually increased from 0.6 mg and increased weekly to the maximum therapeutic dose of 3 mg. But the cost is the limiting factor. The daily cost is around 700 rupees per day. And the mechanism of action of liraglutide is that it acts by increasing satiety, cause abdominal fullness, and delays the gastric emptying by acting on the hypothalamus and limbic system. And the common side effects include nausea, vomiting, constipation. And in few initial studies, it has shown to increase the levels of amylase and lipase, and it also increases the gallbladder related events like cholelithiasis and cholecystitis. But long-term studies have shown that there is only theoretical increase in the levels of amylase and lipase, but the actual risk of pancreatitis does not increase significantly in patient on liraglutide. Liraglutide should be used cautiously in patient with history of medullary thyroid carcinoma or Mantoux syndrome, because animal study shows that it has a proliferative effect on thyroid C cell. The clinical efficacy of liraglutide was assessed in this randomized trial published in New England Journal of Medicine, which included more than 3,700 patients. The inclusion criteria were BMI more than 30 or more than 27 with obesity-related comorbidities. Randomization was done in 2:1 ratio with around 2,500 patients in the 3 mg liraglutide group and around 1,250 in the placebo group. The mean age was 45 years and the mean BMI was 38 at 1 year of follow-up. In the liraglutide group, the weight loss was around 8.4 kg, and in the placebo group, it was 2.8 kg, and the difference was really significant. And this study concluded that 3 mg liraglutide with an adjunct to lifestyle intervention is associated with reduction in body weight and improved metabolic control. This was another study published in Lancet 2017 with more than 2,000 patients, 1,500 in the liraglutide group and 750 in the placebo group. And as similar to all other previous studies, the limitation of the pharmacotherapy is that the follow-up is loss to follow-up is very common. And in this study, there was 50% patient loss to follow-up, and it was a 3-year follow-up study. And at 3 years, it was seen that the reduction in diabetes was 2.7 times longer with the liraglutide as compared to the placebo group. And the liraglutide induced greater weight loss than placebo. The weight loss in liraglutide is around 6.1% as compared to 1.9% in the placebo group, and the difference was really significant. And this study concluded that liraglutide 3 mg may provide health benefit in terms of reduction in diabetes and in patient with obesity and pre-diabetes. This is the results from systemic review and meta-analysis, which shows that the combination of phentermine and topiramate has the highest potency, and it leads to weight reduction of in the tone of around 8.5 kg compared to 1.7 at 1 year, followed by liraglutide, which has efficacy which leads to reduction in 7.1 kg compared to 1.7 in the placebo group, and then followed by naltrexone. And orlistat remains the most studied drug, but the potency is least in among the all 5 FDA approved drugs. It is only 4.6 as compared to others. Now coming to the newer anti-obesity drugs which are in the pipeline, which may come in the near future. They include setmelanotide, cannabinoid receptor antagonist, semaglutide, peptide Y, lipase inhibitor cetilast, monoamine reuptake inhibitor like tesofensine, and anti-obesity vaccines, ghrelin, somatostatin, and adenovirus vaccine. Now coming to each of them, setmelanotide is a newer melanocyte cortical receptor agonist specific to type 4. It acts in the hypothalamus and reduces the food intake and increases the energy expenditure by acting on the reward center. And animal studies has shown to decrease in body weight. And initially it is in phase 2 studies in humans. All of these newer drugs are in the different phases of study, so we should know the various phases. In phase 1, the drug is used in healthy volunteers and the number of persons are usually less than 10. In phase 2 is done to assess the drug's efficacy and safety. It is done in less than 100 patients. And phase 3 is done in more patients to assess to compare the drug from the previous already in the market and the previous drug. And phase 4 is a post-marketing surveillance, and it tells the long-term side effects of each of the drug. The cannabinoid receptor blockers, activation of cannabinoid receptor stimulates orexin signals, while antagonism of cannabinoid receptor leads to inhibition of anorexinic signals. And rimonabant, which was initially used as an anti-obesity drug, has shown to promote weight loss. It is a cannabinoid receptor antagonist, and the clinical trials have shown that rimonabant carries a higher risk of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. So it was withdrawn from the market. And now the search is going for the cannabinoid receptor which have lesser CNS penetration, so that we can achieve the benefit without any adverse effect of the CNS which are observed with the drug like rimonabant. Next is the semaglutide. It is a long-acting GLP-1 analog. It is a congener of liraglutide, and the advantage is that the dosage schedule is once weekly, as compared to the liraglutide which require once daily injection. And the safety of and efficacy of semaglutide for the treatment of diabetes has been evaluated in several trials, but for weight loss it is under process, and it has resulted in greater reduction in HbA1c and weight with fewer hypoglycemic events as compared to liraglutide. The common side effects are similar to liraglutide, like nausea, bloating, and increased risk of polylithiasis. And similar to liraglutide, it also stimulates thyroid C cells in animal models, so it should be used in cautious with medullary thyroid carcinoma or Mann-2 syndrome. Next is the peptide Y. Y is an anorexigenic peptide secreted by the endocrine cells of the ileum and colon in response to feeding. It acts by feedback mechanism, and after feeding, peptide Y reduces appetite and decreases food intake by decreasing the gastric motility and increasing the satiety. And in animal models, peptide Y infusion has shown to reduce the orexigenic hormones ghrelin levels. But the limitation of this is that it has very short half-life of around 3.4 hours. So the research is going to develop a long-acting congener so that it can be used in humans. Next is the lipase inhibitor, similar to orlistat. Setlas is gastric and pancreatic lipase inhibitor, and the side effects include the diarrhea, flatulence, and steatorrhea. It is well tolerated and have fewer discontinuations due to adverse effects compared to orlistat, and it is currently in phase 2 trials. Next is the triple monoamine reuptake inhibitor, tesofensine. It is it inhibits the reuptake of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. And in phase 2 trials, tesofensine has shown robust anti-obesity activity. And pharmacological properties are similar to sibutramine, which was initially used for the treatment of obesity, but it was withdrawn because it leads to increase in heart rate, BP, and psychiatric illnesses like depression, anxiety. Studies have shown studies to assess the safety and efficacy of tesofensine are going on, and it may come in near future. Last is the anti-obesity vaccine. The concept of vaccination acts on the fact that vaccine acts by inciting an immune response to foreign, weakened, or killed antigen and generate antibodies which eliminate the antigens from the body. The key concept in anti-obesity vaccine is to suppress appetite by stimulating suppress appetite stimulating hormones. There is a ghrelin, or blocking the nutrient absorption. Ghrelin is the potential target of for vaccination. Anti-ghrelin vaccine has shown to decrease food intake and decrease hypothalamic orexigenic signals and increase energy expenditure in animal models. But in humans, it has been seen that the results are not rewardous, because there is development of anti-ghrelin antibodies which prevent the destruction of ghrelin. Next is the somatostatin. Somatostatin is a peptide hormone produced in the hypothalamus and pancreas, which inhibits the growth hormone secretion and insulin-like growth factor secretion. And it has been observed that decreased levels of growth hormone leads to obesity and increased adiposities. And principle behind development of vaccine against somatostatin is to remove the inhibitory effects of somatostatin on the endogenous level of growth hormone and insulin-like growth factors. Last is the adenovirus vaccine. It has been observed that adenovirus influences the risk of obesity in humans by increasing the inflammation and causes adiposity. In mice, it was injected and compared to the control group, and after 14 weeks, there was the weight in the control group was higher, and prophylactic vaccination against adenovirus vaccine may lead to reduction in obesity associated with adenovirus. Now, finally, to conclude, pharmacotherapy is this second-line treatment for obesity following lifestyle modification. The absolute indication include BMI of more than 30 or more than 27 with comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension. And the parameters like weight loss, blood pressure, heart rate should be routinely checked, as the drugs may have side effect and there may be derangement. And if after continuation of 3 months, there is reduction in weight of less than 5%, the drug should be tapered and discontinued, as it has been observed that if the drug has not led to weight loss of less than 5% in 3 months, it will not result in greater weight loss in long term. So it should be withheld. And with all drugs, the weight loss is only mild, around 4 to 8%. And despite the marked availability, anti-obesity drugs are less commonly used, and only 2% of obese population are prescribed anti-obesity drugs by their prescription. And the reason for this low prescription include the high cost, the phenomena of weight regain, and side effects. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Devinder. Deep is still there?
Ji sir.
Dr. Deep? He's gone. So, nice presentation. One obviously thing which come across, which you have summarized in the last slide, is that the low efficacy and the overall low weight loss with all the drugs. The maximum weight loss is about 8 kg in 1 year. So obviously it is not meant for morbidly obese patient and in no way competes with bariatric surgery,
Yes,
in any of the parameters. So it's basically meant for the indication said was more than 27 and more than 30. And obviously our population, it can go down to another 3 point less BMI. So maybe overweight and obese, overweight as well as mild obesity, it can be used. But one thing I was actually interested also was, in the weight regain after surgery, can it be used as an adjunct? I was quite interested in knowing, because from our point of view, we are unlikely to prescribe them as a primary therapy for obesity, because they are being used in metabolic clinics and physician-run clinics. For us, I think the importance lies in as an adjunct therapy. So, there have been certain discussions about obesity being compared to malignancy. So if there's a patient with more than 50 BMI patient or 60 BMI, that amounts to like a stage 3-4 malignancy. And hence you should be using some sort of adjunct therapy. Okay, this was a concept, recently popularized. So that right from the beginning, when you're operating these patients, because they have a high amount of weight regain, the higher the BMI, the higher the chance of weight regain. So I would have been interested in knowing the data about use in that setting as a primary adjunct, like you operate and start right away on these medications. And secondly, results of these medications in patients with weight regain, with or without surgery. So these are the two areas maybe next time you can cover, because that will be quite relevant to us. This is good to know the drugs, some basics, the mechanism of action. But I think from a bariatric point of view, must know what is happening in terms of this therapy.
Okay, sir, I will search, but so far in my search, I couldn't find any direct comparison of surgery to these drugs. And
no. You have not got my point.
I have understood.
You have not got my point. No, I'm not saying comparison of surgery with medication.
Yes, sir. For weight regain.
Saying, no, okay, listen. So one is, you have not understood my point. So one is when you straight away start, like in cancer, you start adjuvant radiotherapy, chemotherapy. In patient with super obesity or super obesity, there are trials, or at least I've not seen them personally, but I've heard of them being discussed, that if you start them right away, immediately after surgery, just like you start diet, you start them on anti-obesity medications.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So see whether it prevents weight regain in future or it leads to a better weight loss. One group is that. Other group is patients who come to our clinic with weight regain, where we are not operating. So we give them therapy.
Okay, sir.
Okay, we give them medications. So I was more, because now there's a lot more thinking, I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of trials, because according to a lot of experts, revision surgery for weight regain has now limited value in the presence of very efficacious medications, especially liraglutide. So weight regain surgery should be now very carefully undertaken, because you should try these medications probably because the results are so good. So this is what I was pointing, not comparison.
Yes, sir, I will search. But the fact is that liraglutide is the daily cost is around 700 rupees per day. In our setting, it would be feasible to 700 rupees per day patient.
700 rupees per day into this is 21,000. Okay,
Yes, sir.
right? Okay, and a cost of resurgery
Resurgery is
in a
मतलब
private setup in India is about 5 lakh rupees.
sir, that is a
Okay, so
one
even
time
if you take,
investment.
sorry,
Resurgery is single time. Anti-obesity drug should be used for lifetime.
so still you never know at that, because if you operate, still 5 to 7 lakh with a possibility of weight regain.
Yes, sir.
And there are studies, unless you, well, there are studies, we have to discuss this scientifically.
Okay, sir.
We just can't say because that's why these medicines are being made. The cost, look, the cost is something we should all needs to be looked at. But first thing is efficacy. Are we? Then only we can recommend it. A patient may say, I can afford. I don't want surgery. So our answer should know. Our country problem यही है. We always think we are a poor nation, but we have rich people as well who can afford. And given a choice between complication of resurgery versus medications, and if I can afford, I would definitely choose medications. So I can tell you these medications are efficacious. Well, I can just give you an example of my mother who is on liraglutide for diabetes, and she has tremendous, not, I don't know how much weight, at least 6 to 7 over the last 1 or 2 years. She feels less hungry now. And I recently went to SMBS where everybody was talking about this liraglutide. And so obviously we don't know whether this initial buzz will remain. And we ourselves, our institute is a part of a multi-center trial on semaglutide. In fact, we have contributed about 10 patients from our own bariatric surgery clinic for this trial, our class on obesity. So there is a potential, and people are talking more and more that in a decade or two, bariatric surgeons will be out of, job. So don't underestimate the efficacy. The cost thing is always there when the drugs, a lot of money is spent on research, but this comes down. So it's being used quite frequently, at least in some of the bariatric clinics in India itself, by surgeons themselves. So having said that, don't underestimate their efficacy. They may be showing that 8 kg, 10 kg, but that's all some patient may require. After that, suppose somebody regains 18 kg, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if they lose 10 kg or 8 kg, it's quite good. But as a primary therapy, yes, morbidly obese are not indicated, but they have a role now, increasing role even in bariatric practice. So maybe next time you can cover some of these topics, or maybe somebody else can cover. We can, that's what we want to know. That's fine. Otherwise, a very nice coverage where you covered all the trials and give us the insight into it. I wish you could have also given some insight into the.
Hello.
So rimonabant was a very promising drug, and again it was banned because of risk of suicide. One
Yes,
of medication was banned for arrhythmias. Then there was a drug called which was brought for Rockefeller Institute.
Fenfluramine was banned. Rimonabant was banned. These
So
both
I
are.
think always it's always give, because history teaches us a lot of things.
Yes,
So it's always good to have also discuss 2 slides about which drugs were banned, why and why. As you showed yourself, opioid receptor antagonist,
yes, sir.
sitaglutide, and sorry, what was that? The
Naltrexone
one
and
which was,
bupropion.
so you wanted a peripheral action now. So history teaches you a lot of things, because again, all these medications were very promising initially, and when they started noticing suicides, so maybe we can allot this to somebody now, or you can cover if you wish, part 2 of it, where we can discuss its use in bariatric surgical patients as an adjunct and for weight regain or whatever. And there are a lot of studies I can bet about it. There's no way there are not a lot, because it's been discussed over last 2 years by very well-known, renowned experts, that there's an increasing role of pharmacotherapy now. So it's open to discussion now.
Nice presentation, Dr. Devendra. I think you have raised a very good point. Like you said, because these anti-obesity drugs cannot compete with the bariatric surgery. One point is clear, because gold posted itself are different. For FDA approved any drug obesity drugs, only 5 to 7% of the weight loss it should minimum it should show, and the maximum they have shown up to only 8 to 10%, 8% most probably. And when you approve a bariatric procedure, it has to show at least 50% excess body weight loss. So they are not competing with bariatric surgery, but the drugs, yes, you said adjunct as a adjunct from the start of the procedure or after 2 years of the any bariatric procedure, because that is the time when patients they start gaining weight. So that is the now lot of studies are done. We have used in few patients in Indore also, not as a part of the study. Liraglutide was used in lot of patients who underwent ESG and sleeve gastrectomy and they start gaining weight. So a plateau appears. We have seen that they lose, yes, initially 4 to 5 kgs of weight, and again there is a plateau. There is no further fall if they have gained 8, 10 or 20 kgs of extra weight after 1.5 to 2 years. That is the interesting aspect when we should start. We can start these drugs, or whether in the long run these drugs will be able to work as an adjunct to the bariatric surgery. That is, I think, the interesting field.